Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. Happening right now in Minneapolis, two people are fighting for their lives after a hit-and-run crash overnight. It happened at 5th Avenue South and Lake Street around midnight, leaving shoes and a dented bike lying in the middle of the street. Minneapolis police say a bicyclist and a pedestrian are both injured and are currently both in the hospital. New details on a crash overnight in Golden Valley. Police say it happened around 2:45 this morning near Glenwood Avenue and Meander Road. Investigators say the vehicle hit a fire hydrant and a tree. Police on scene say there were two people in the car and both were taken to the hospital. One person is in critical condition, but police say that's unrelated to the crash. Officers on scene told us the crash did involve a drunk driver and one person was taken into custody. However, it is not clear how they're connected. Happening today, new students are moving into the University of Minnesota, but that comes as a major strike from 1,400 union workers faces a pivotal step. Teamsters Local 320 will begin voting on the school's final offer tomorrow. The service workers, including those in maintenance and food service, say the university is offering them a 3% wage, less than the 3.5% offered to other workers on campus. The negotiating committee is recommending they vote it down. The university says they want to avoid a strike because it would harm the community, including employees. Voters will hit the polls tomorrow morning for special primaries to fill two open Minnesota Senate seats. The primary will determine the DFL nominee for former Democratic Senator Nicole Mitchell's seat, following her resignation after her felony burglary conviction last month. On the DFL side, there are two current state representatives running, Ethan Shaw and Amanda Hemmingson-Yeager. The winner will face the only Republican candidate, Dwight Dora.
Mitchell's seat has been voting reliably Democrats since 2012. And with redistricting, it's probably become a bit more Democratic. So the odds are that the Democrats will hold the seat and probably hold their majority in the Minnesota Senate. But there is ill will against Senator Mitchell for overstaying her welcome and, of course, the conviction.
Meanwhile, there's another special primary in Senate District 29 to fill Republican Senator Bruce Anderson of Buffalo's seat. Anderson suddenly died last month. There are three Republicans vying for the nomination. A winner will go on to face the only Democrat in the race. Both special elections are set for November 4th. New today, National Guard troops patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. are now armed. In the last 12 hours, Guard members started carrying their service pistols, and a small number of troops are armed with their service M4 rifles. It comes just days after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized troops to carry weapons for self-defense. Despite being armed, the White House officials say the troops are still not allowed to make arrests. More uncertainty this morning for peace between Russia and Ukraine. New video overnight shows intense flames and destruction after Russian strikes in the northeastern part of Ukraine. The strikes have been relentless for weeks, despite talks of peace between the two countries, with the U.S. right in the middle. Russia's top diplomat on NBC's Meet the Press underscoring how far apart Ukraine and Russia remain, even after the White House pushed for peace. That while Vice President J.D. Vance says he remains confident the U.S. can broker an end to Russia's war on Ukraine, despite substantial roadblocks. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest.
Hi there. On the same day that Ukraine celebrated its Independence Day, Russia's foreign minister put a damper on hopes for a leaders' summit and a swift end to the punishing war brokered by the U.S. With Russia's assault on Ukraine showing no sign of slowing down, targeting energy infrastructure and an American-owned electronics factory in recent days, two very different views are emerging from the U.S. and Russia about the prospects for peace. Vice President J.D. Vance pointing to progress after President Trump met separately with Russian President Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky.
This is the energetic diplomacy that's going to bring this war to a close.
While Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov threw cold water on the president's push for a Putin-Zelensky meeting.
There is no meeting planned. Putin is ready to meet with Zelensky when the agenda would be ready for a summit. And this agenda is not ready at all.
Lavrov noting that key issues, including security guarantees for Ukraine and disputes over territory, remain unresolved.
Zelensky said no to everything. How can we meet with a person who is pretending to be a leader.
Vice President Vance asked on NBC's Meet the Press whether Russia is stringing President Trump along.
No, not at all, Kristen. I think the Russians have made significant concessions to President Trump for the first time in 3.5 years of this conflict.
The president again weighing Russia sanctions.
Massive sanctions or massive tariffs or both? Or do we do nothing and say it's your fight?
While in Ukraine, Sunday, a celebration of 34 years of independence, with a grave threat hanging over the years to come. There is one new positive sign as Russia and Ukraine carried out another large-scale prisoner exchange, swapping 164 prisoners of war from each side and offering hopes they can still make progress. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
The back and forth between Russia and Ukraine comes just hours after landmarks around the world, from the Empire State Building to the Roman Colosseum, lit up blue and yellow for Ukraine's Independence Day. Sunday, Ukraine marked 34 years of freedom from the former Soviet Union. But Independence Day has taken on new meaning amid this war with Russia. Back here at home, the Ukrainian American Community Center hosted a celebration for Ukrainian Independence Day. Ukrainians there said it feels like the country is fighting for its independence and freedom once again.
Behind those territories are people who live there, and for them, being part of Russia, being under the occupation, will only mean, possibility to be tortured, to be deported somewhere deeper into Russia, and to constantly live in fear and not to be able to show your true Ukrainian identity.
The Ukrainian American Community Center says Ukrainian soldiers also flew into Minneapolis yesterday to receive specialty prosthetics for limbs they lost in the war. This time next week, Canada will be dropping tariffs on some American products. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said starting September 1st, he is lifting retaliatory tariffs on goods complying with the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. The 25% tariff placed on American steel and aluminum, as well as tariffs on American cars, though, those stay in place. Carney said he and President Trump will continue discussions. A somber anniversary in the U.S. today. It has been 20 years since one of the deadliest and costliest hurricanes in U.S. history, Hurricane Katrina. The storm first made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane in Florida on August 25, 2005, killing at least 4 people there. The storm weakened as it crossed the state, but eventually strengthened again in the Gulf before making landfall in Louisiana. That is where more than 1,800 people were killed. T-minus 1 week until the unofficial end of summer. And starting this Thursday, millions will begin traveling for the Labor Day weekend. Experts aren't expecting a blockbuster holiday travel period like Memorial Day or July 4th. But the good news, AAA says this year travelers are paying less for Labor Day flights. And if you're driving for the holiday weekend, you could also be saving more than last year.
We are anticipating that the lower gas prices we've seen most of the summer are going to hold, which is great because a lot of people do tend to opt for a long weekend road trip over Labor Day weekend.
Let's take a look at the current gas prices. Nationally, the average is sitting at $3.16 a gallon. Here in Minnesota, prices are below the national average at just $2.97, I should say. But across the border in Wisconsin, a bit more expensive, $3.06 a gallon. This weekend marked the end of an era on Minneapolis's West Bank as the Corner Bar poured its last drink. The closure comes after its building was sold to new owners, and it's the latest business in the Seven Corners area to tap out in recent years. Owner Bill Murray reflected on being one of the last ones standing.
When it comes down to it, and we've lost other bars, they all gravitate here, and sustained me, and I feel the love in the last week when we made the announcement. It's hard.
Now, this isn't the last call for Murray. He says he wants to take some time off and then hopefully open a bar somewhere else in the area. As for the property, he says it's being sold to a local organization that wants to open an Islamic community center on the site. Stay with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.